Never mind. Let them do it.
Water to retain moisture before applying the film. You can't treat a glaze lily like a cactus.
I'll go.
Hey, Tainari!
Oh, it's you two. It's been a while. What brings you to Port Ormos?
We didn't have anything to do, and this place looked pretty lively, so we decided to stop by. But, what's with all the flowers around here?
Well, Port Ormos is currently organizing a flower exhibition featuring flowers and plants from all over Teyvat, so I came to help out. The exhibition includes flowers from every corner of the world, each with their own unique prop. Even so, an expert is still required to develop tailored transportation and care plans for each type of flower.
Oh, and that expert is you, right?
Not this time, no. I'm just here to help out.
Mr. Tainari! Sanjay! He confused the poisonous bulbs with garlic shoots, and he ate them!
Never mind. Forget about what I said about apologies. Traveler, Paimon. Looks like I've got something to take care of. I'll be back in just a moment.
Tainari's busy no matter where he is, huh? Yeah, seems like it. Hey, don't look at Paimon like that! Well, looks like Tainari might be busy for a while. Let's take a look. Wow, look at these flowers! They smell so...
Huh?
Paimon's... fine. She's just got a little...
Rainbow roses, glaze lilies, and Cecilia's? No wonder.
It's getting worse.
A moment of your time, you two? If it's not too much trouble, perhaps you could try this incense.
Incense? Whoa, that was fast! Paimon doesn't have to sneeze anymore!
Think nothing of it. From your attire, I imagine you two aren't from Sumeru either. Seeing as we're both travelers from abroad, it's only right that we help each other out.
Oh, so you're here for the flower exhibition too?
I suppose that's accurate. Oh, allow me to introduce myself. I'm Emily, a perfumer from Fontaine.
Paimon is Paimon! Thank you so much for your help just now. Oh, and this is...
The Traveler, right? I've heard a lot about you from the Steambird. It's nice to finally put a face to the name.
What happened back there? Why did Paimon start sneezing all of a sudden?
Have you ever heard of hay fever? To put it simply, when inhaled, certain pollens can trigger abnormal physical reactions.
But Paimon has seen these kinds of flowers before and nothing weird.
Well, we're all different. The factors that can trigger a reaction to certain stimuli vary by person. In isolation, the effects of certain pollens may seem minimal, but there's no need to worry. Pollen allergies can be effectively mitigated with the use of medication.
Oh, well, that's good.
Traveler, Paimon! There you are. I left in such a hurry, I forgot to warn you about all the pollen in the air. Emily? Ah, what a coincidence. Looks like my worry was misplaced then. The Traveler and Paimon are in good hands.
It was nothing, really. We happened to run into each other shortly after my arrival, and I offered them a bit of help. I'm more curious as to why you thought the Traveler and Paimon were in danger. Allergies are highly unpredictable. If you were concerned the pollen might trigger a reaction, that must mean something.
The spirit Borneo didn't affect Paimon at all, and now she's the one suffering. It makes no sense.
It's not really something you can make sense out of, Paimon. There are all kinds of allergies out there, caused by a variety of different...
Exactly. I even encountered a case in Fontaine where someone had an allergic reaction to soba noodles their family brought back from Inazuma.
Whoa. Good thing Paimon...
In a manner of speaking.
In addition to medicine, Emily is...
And that's where my expertise ends, I'm afraid. When it comes to breath of knowledge...
A flower expert? Oh, Paimon's got it!
Wrong again, I'm afraid.
Well, I did come for the exhibition, but only to inquire about the Auguste variety. I'm not involved in any official capacity.
Oh, Paimon was sure she got it right this time.
It's a kind of flower that was once popular in Fontaine. The perfume made from it also bears the same name, Auguste.
Auguste, huh? That's not a name you hear often nowadays.
In an ancient language, the word is said to mean sacred or noble. It's sometimes... that reminds me. Are you familiar with a historical event in Fontaine known as Perfumania? Was an event that occurred in Fontaine nearly 20 years ago. All started when several merchants released their own lines of high-end, expensive perfumes, marketing them as must-have luxury products, the very symbol of elegance itself. No one anticipated the absolute frenzy this would create on the market, causing the price of perfumes to skyrocket. The demand was twofold. What some saw as a status symbol, most saw as a money-making opportunity. You could take advantage. The value of these products became so inflated, regular bottles of perfume were even going for... But at the end of the day, perfume is just perfume. Luckily, the Palais and Ramonia recognized the danger and intervened before the craze could truly... In the end, only a few wealthy families were affected when the bubble popped.
What does all this have to do with that Auguste you mentioned earlier?
Well, during the craze, the most popular perfume was none other than Auguste. The demand far exceeded the supply, to the point where it once sold for 10 million mora a bottle.
10 million? Then what about...
After the mania ended, most perfumes returned to a normal price. Auguste was the only exception. Its namesake, the flower used to create it, went extinct. As a result, no new bottles of Auguste have been made, and the value of the perfume... Indeed. The Auguste flower was not a natural variety, you see. It was specially cultivated for use in perfume making. When the bubble popped, all the flower beds used for its cultivation were destroyed in a fire. The variety has never been seen since.
But didn't you say you came to the exhibition to look for it?
Yes. I came to investigate a certain rumor that the Auguste flower has reappeared in Sumeru.
Traveler, we should help Emily look for it.
I have to agree. Emily wrote me to ask if I could look into the rumor, but the forest rangers haven't received any reports of new plant species recently.
Even if I can locate the flower, I'm afraid you'll be disappointed, Paimon. I don't have any grand Mora-making endeavors planned. Divine, noble, one of a kind, all beautiful sentiments to be sure, but to me, they overshadow the very essence of the product. When it comes to perfume, I want people to forget the price and the prestige and focus on the beauty of the fragrance itself.
Wow, so...
Of course, there's also a more practical reason. In recent years, every so often someone will claim to have recreated the unique scent of Auguste.
Okay, that's more like the...
Ever since that rumor started, if I can dispel the fanaticism surrounding Auguste, then I'll be free from all the stories and added meaning.
That makes sense.
Oh, I would of course be grateful for your help, but I wouldn't want to trouble you.
Well, you said it yourself. We're both travelers from abroad, so it's only right that we help each other out.
I suppose you're right.
Based on the information I have so far, it's unclear if the rumor... Mr. Edgar also thinks it's too early to say. But you could always go talk to him. He was there all those years ago.
I was just about to pay him a visit at the hotel.
Edgar? Who's that?
The person you've been trying to guess this whole time. The flower expert in charge of the exhibition. Back when he was still working in Fontaine, Auguste was his creation.
I should also mention, he was my teacher, the one who taught me the basics of perfumery when I apprenticed in Sumeru. It's a long story. If you're interested, we can talk more about it when we see him. He should be staying near the hotel.
Oh, look at all the flowers!
Apparently, the exhibitor paid a large sum to rent out the hotel and surrounding buildings. They're being used as temporary storage facilities and lodging for exhibition personnel.
Yeah, what if guests come early? They won't have anywhere to stay. Also, renting out this big of a hotel, how are they gonna make that Mora back?
It's been so long, I almost didn't recognize you, Edgar.
Well, you and your brother haven't changed a bit.
Oh, yeah, all this catching up is nice and all, but let's get down to business. We need to talk about
Hold on, we have guests.
It's nice to see you again, Master.
Emily? Is that you? I've heard you've become quite the famous perfumer in Fontaine. It would seem the student has surpassed the map.
Oh, well, it's all...
Hardly. I taught you the basics. Hearing you call me I've taught many students here in Sumeru over the years. And who are these two? I don't recall you.
They're my new friends, the Traveler and Paimon.
Emilie's friends.
And these two gentlemen? Are they friends of yours, Master?
Of course. I'm Oud, and this here is my younger brother, Blaze. Edgar and the two of us are old friends.
Yes.
Merchant brothers?
You must be here to look for the Auguste flower.
Well, what respectable perfume merchant hasn't heard of Auguste?
I'm guessing you're here for the same reason, Emily. We were just about to get into it, so you three might as well join in. I commissioned a few eremites to do some scouting for me. They searched all over Sumeru, but there were no... That being said, there are people in Port Ormos who claim to have smelled a unique fragrance on the streets. Some of them were merchants who lived in Fontaine 20 years ago. According to them, a one-of-a-kind, divine, and noble scent.
Maybe someone around here just happens to have a bottle of Auguste from back then.
No, I don't think so. I doubt that's the case. Even if someone had a bottle that was never opened, Auguste is even more prone to that kind of shift. Only a few bottles still exist in Fontaine, and their scent would have complete. Although, could there be a flower out there with a similar fragrance? Or in accord with a...
Impossible! If Auguste were that easy to replicate, it would never have sold for such a high price all those years ago. The Auguste flower is back. It has to be.
Technically speaking, the scent wouldn't be impossible to imitate.
Well, let's table that question for now. Edgar, did any of those people mention where the scent was coming from?
No. By the time they realized they had smelled something, the scent was already gone. Compared to things we see and hear, smells can be much easier to overlook.
It almost sounds...
Wait, are you saying...
Just thinking out loud. Don't pay me any mind.
We don't have much to go off of right now, but we can't rule out that possibility. I'll say you all traveled so far to be here. Why don't you rest in the hotel for...
Ooh, you've got the keys to the rooms?
Ah, my apologies. All the rooms in the hotel are accounted for, I'm afraid. Most are being used for I managed to tidy up one of the rooms for these two at the last minute. But by the time Emily wrote to me, there was no more space left.
Oh, and we just showed up out of the blue. Guess...
I should have been more considerate.
Don't worry, Master. I can sleep on the boat tonight. Or I could even camp in the wild. It would give me the opportunity. Even better. Although, would it be possible for me to leave some of my luggage here? It would...
Well,
Of course, no trouble at all. My brother and I will keep an eye on them for you.
all right then. Ood, why don't you take Emily? I'll prepare some refreshments and join you in a bit.
Whoa, the smell of flowers is so strong. Didn't Edgar say he tidied up around here? There's still so many flowers. Hyman took a peek through the window earlier and his house was packed with flowers. Looks like this exhibition is gonna...
No, that's a florist thing. We work closely with the essential oils of various plants. But to maintain a sharp sense of smell, most perfumers prefer to keep their homes free of strong odors.
Oh, guess there's just too much to store for the exhibition then.
Oh, this room seems to be a connected suite, and my brother will be staying on the other side of the suite. Blaze, while you're out, why don't you bring our luggage over as well? Blaze!
Yes.
All right then. Where can we find your luggage, mademoiselle?
It's still at the port. In addition to some daily necessities, there's also a case of amber wine that I brought back from Fontaine. Could I trouble you to bring that back as well? It would be the perfect way to repay you for your hospitality.
How generous. I should thank you on my brother's behalf. You stumbled upon...
Is that so? Mr. Ood, Mr. Blaze, thanks for...
Hey! What are you doing?
That's Master's voice.
Edgar!
Master!
Hey, Edgar! Are you all right? Can you hear me?
Who did this?
Kyria. August.
Kyria.
Hey, Edgar? Edgar!
No, don't shake him. He's injured. Just leave him to me. You two can... Oh, thank you.
That strange smell around here. Is it coming from this bottle? Oh, really? You think... Do you think whoever did this was hiding in the flowers before they attacked Edgar?
An impressive bounty.
checked. It doesn't look like anyone passed through here.
Oh, but that's impossible. It's not like that kid can just grow some wings and fly away. Oh, the culprit, I mean. It's not like the culprit could have just disappeared into thin air.
Well, we looked all over, but the only clue we found was that bottle.
The most important thing we can do now is...
So, how's he doing?
When I administered emergency treatment, I discovered a residue in his nose and mouth. He's still unconscious, and inducing vomiting could have... Ah, yes. The scent is this. But first, I do believe there are Mr. Sylvain, Mr. Lucien.
Wait,
Hey! Were you talking to us, mademoiselle? I'm afraid we've never heard of those names before.
Before arriving in Sumeru, I asked a friend from the Special Patrol to look into the creators of Agoo. There were 4 people in total. The perfumer, Edgar, a researcher from Sumeru responsible for cultivating the Agoost flower. The 2 brothers capitalized on the mythos surrounding Agoost. Their actions, in the end, they were sent to the Fortress of Meripede for falsifying their accounts and destabilizing the market. If you do the math, they should be out of prison by now.
and what does that have to do with us? There are countless merchant families in Fontaine. You gonna accuse them of being criminals too?
Every time your brother called you Blaze, it took you several seconds to respond. But when I called you Lucien just now, the name registered immediately.
Ah, Miss Emily, out of respect for your position as a famous perfumer in Fontaine, I'm inclined to believe that was simply a poor attempt at... You have a bright future ahead of you. You wouldn't want to develop a reputation as someone who throws around false accusations, especially...
You claim to be regular perfume merchants, and yet, when I brought up amber wine, you took it to be alcohol.
What?
Amber wine is a perfume I created several years ago. It wasn't particularly renowned, but I'm certain any respectable perfume, unless, until recently, they were living somewhere completely cut off from the perfume world. Somewhere like the Fortress of Meripede, perhaps?
Emily, you little...
Don't misunderstand, Mr. Sylvain. I don't bring this up to criticize you. No matter what happened all those years ago, the court has already passed its judgment. But Master's life is in danger. We need to learn whatever we can about the person who has done this. If Master's attack had something to do with Agoost, I would imagine the 2 of you might also be in danger. So I'd like to trouble you for some information, if I may. Tell me about Kyria.
Fine. As you wish.
Sylvain!
Lucien, if this will help us find Kyria, then it will be all worth it. Besides, we've already told most of the stuff to the Maison Orderly. You were right, Miss Emily. There were 4 of us at the beginning. Myself, Lucien, Edgar, and a researcher from Sumeru in charge of flower cultivation, Vijava. Sometime down the road, the Marechaussee Phantom came knocking, saddled us with a list of accusations, and started looking into our books. Oh, they did their meddling, and my...
Sounds like he's still upset about that. Wait, then how did Edgar end up in Sumeru?
Master was convicted as an accomplice, so he only had to serve a few years. He decided to move to Sumeru so that he could put those events behind him. Still, Master was depressed. That's how I met him. My parents had to relocate to Sumeru for work when I was a child, but we can talk about that some other time. I want to hear more about this researcher, Vijava.
Like us, Vijava was also staring down an investigation from the Marechaussee Phantom. But before the Phantom showed up at her door, she set all the flower beds on fire, along with much of the...
But destroying all that evidence, wouldn't that make things worse for her?
It didn't matter at that point, because
What?
Sounds like you did an investigation of your own. Why even ask us if you knew all of this already?
the name wasn't mentioned in any of the files I reviewed either. But you two seem quite familiar with him.
Kyria was Vijava's younger brother. He was just a clueless kid back then. Somewhere in his teens, I think. He helped his sister with her work sometimes, but that was pretty much it. He didn't have any idea what Vijava kept him close most of the time. The three of us were probably the only ones. After our operation was compromised, he disappeared. There were no signs of him until recently, when people started saying the Auguste flower had reappeared in Sumeru.
So, you think Kyria took something with him back then? Something that allowed him to...
Vijava doted on the kid like you wouldn't believe. She even told if she left something behind before she died, believe me, Kyria's the one that has it.
And judging by the liquid in that bottle, the Auguste flower wasn't the only thing he reproduced. He managed to replicate the...
So the liquid Edgar was forced to ingest really was Auguste. Wait, does that...
Poison? No. Of course, if Auguste could be considered a poison, we wouldn't... He probably thought we had something to do with his sister's death. But to tell you the truth, I have no idea why We're not looking for Kyria because we have it out for him. We just wanted to see how he was doing. We only went to prison for a bit of... As long as we keep things honest...
So that's why you never mentioned Kyria?
Yes, exactly.
Anyway, that's all we know. If you're looking for information on what's in Auguste, or what to do if you ingest it, there are only two people to ask. Edgar...
Well, at least we're able to say for certain that the substance Edgar ingested was in fact Auguste. That gives us a direction for further testing. Well then, I'd say that was a very enlightening discussion.
Well, glad to hear it. Lucian, let's head back to the room and rest a bit. With everything that's happened...
Yes, of course.
You think so too? That does seem to be the case. Pity we don't have more evidence. But based on Sylvain's tone of voice just now, I suspect further questioning will only result in more made-up answers.
The way you exposed them like that, just based on a hunch? That was... Oh, right! Earlier you said you were only sort of a doctor.
Oh yes, that's because most of the patients I encounter are already dead.
So you're a forensic doctor?
Close. I'm actually a forensic cleaner. Once the forensic team and the Marechaussee Phantom are done collecting evidence from the scene... In fact, with just a small alteration to the formula, the same tincture used as the base of perfume... Basically, there are two sides to forensics. Those who collect evidence to expose the truth, and those who clean up the smells, bloodstains, and other substances left behind at the scene. I've learned a lot in my line of work, and I've witnessed a lot of death. But this time, we may still save the patient. Actually, Traveler, could I trouble you? I'll stay here and continue to look after Master. Now that we have a sample of Auguste, I'm hoping for the...
Whoa, why the rush? Did something happen?
What?
Edgar was attacked. He's the most famous perfumer in the region. Someone who's helped countless people around Port Ormos. How could this happen?
Sheriff, have you received any reports of a suspicion?
No, but I'll start gathering my forces. We won't let him get away.
What about you, Tainari? Do you have a...
I'm sure the sheriff can handle...
but she said...
Then she was far too modest. Not to mention the fact that Mr. Edgar's condition is related to... As for me, I'll head to the academia and...
Oh, that's right! Vijava was supposed to be a scholar.
From Emilie's letter, certainly, but that was the first... I didn't have time to look into it earlier, but now it seems like Vijava's past could be critical to getting to the bottom of what happened to Mr. Edgar. I have friends in Sumeru City that can help me investigate. With any luck, we'll have news to share by tomorrow. I'll leave you and Emilie to watch over things here in Port Ormos.
But I also noticed an abnormal trace of elemental energy in the sample.
Elemental energy?
Hard to say. It was such a minute amount, proportionally speaking, like mixing a single drop of perfume into the ocean. I had to use one of the newest tests developed in recent years to even detect the traces present in the sample. Unless you were abnormally sensitive to elemental energy, I doubt it would have any effect. As for whether Master's condition was caused by the elemental energy present in the sample or some other component of the perfume, it's still too early to say.
Oh, that reminds Paimon.
I received a message.
Oh, Paimon thought he might have stopped by. Excuse me? Is Miss Emilie here? Oh, perfect! Familiar face?
Kale. Ah, of course. Tainari's apprentice. He's mentioned you. And please, no need for formalities. Emily.
Oh, did Tainari send you here, Yep. Master and the others went through decades worth of records last night and still haven't had a chance to rest. I'm fast. Anyway, based on what they've reviewed so far, Master considered that possibility as well. But the name wasn't the only dead end. Master tried to track... How is that possible?
It's starting to seem very likely. If we want to figure out her true identity, I'm afraid another conversation with those two merchants...
Hey! Lucian!
It's Sylvain! Wait, you don't think Kirio came back, do you?
That seems impossible. If someone came in or out of the hotel... It's locked?
There's no one here.
Lucian! Lucian!
That's Sylvain's voice.
Lucian! Come on! Emilie! Emilie! My brother.
I'm sorry, Mr. Sylvain.
No, that's not...
Traveler, Kale, Mr. Sylvain has gone through a huge shock. He needs some space to calm down.
Of course. Leave it.
Thank you both. Mr. Sylvain, let's get you up. We'll take things from here. Just focus on getting some rest. Here, this way.
Poor guy. He's like a shell. He may have made some bad decisions in life, but
Good person or bad, the death of a loved one is all the moments he shared with his
if Kyria really was behind this, then
Lucien can no longer speak. Traveler, I've got things covered here at the scene. I'll leave you to contact...
Who would have thought? Yesterday's case is still up in the air, and now this. Miss Emily, I heard you're an experienced...
Oh, I'm not actually a friend. I did take a look, though.
Then...
Of course, I appreciate your trust.
we'll help too. And the windows are shut tight too. Well, looks like we've investigated as much as we can. Let's go report.
So, did you find anything?
Paimon can show you. Here, it'd be something like this.
But entering through the room next door without alerting Sylvain... Wait,
No, his reaction to the loss of his brother seemed genuine. And
then what could have happened last night?
I agree. Also, I've...
Mr. Sylvain, I need you to tell me everything you and your brother did since yesterday.
After Kyria attacked Edgar, my brother and I were incredible. We returned to our rooms and decided to lock all the doors leading to the hallway. The only door we kept unlocked was the one connecting our rooms. That way, if we heard any commotion coming... But I didn't hear any sort of commotion last night. Not a single noise! I woke up this morning.
So, no movement from the room next door, no signs of a struggle at the scene, and no external injury on Lucien's body.
I did notice a few things about the body. Lucien's pupils were dilated, and his skin was flushed. Very similar to Master. There weren't any traces of liquid in his mouth or nose, so it's unlikely he was forced to ingest anything. The more plausible explanation is that he inhaled a substance without knowing it, and I'd say that substance was likely
A goose? No, that's not possible. Inhaling a goose won't kill you. And anyway, no, that's not what I meant. Emily, you ran your tests, didn't you? Go on, tell everyone whether you found...
No, I didn't find any common toxins.
See? A goose is harmless. The market response proved that years ago.
That may be true for most people, but not for every...
Master!
Edgar? You're up and about already?
Thanks to Emily, I'm out of the woods for now. Sylvain, no matter how hard you may try to hide it, the truth will always come to light.
Edgar!
Even if we could keep it a secret for another 10 or 20 years, do you think... No. He would never give up. Not if he's doing all... She was an exiled Fatus from Snezhnaya.
A Fatus?
The Fatui. Well, that means the elemental energy present in Auguste was...
Ah, so you've already detected it. Well, Sylvain, looks like...
Oh,
The Auguste flower was created with the mutative and distorting power of a delusion.
A delusion?
The Fatui, delusions... I never would have thought Auguste was hiding this
Born of a delusion, Auguste contained distorted elemental energy. A prolonged exposure over many years could have a harmful effect on the body.
that's enough, Edgar. I'll take it from here. At first, Yelena wanted to keep refining the perfume and the flower. But no one knew how long the perfume mania was going to last back then. It didn't have any effect on ordinary people anyway. Every day we postponed going to market was another day of lost earning potential.
So you decided poisoning people was worth the risk?
Listen, it's not like it was good for business. But all that talk about Auguste being harmful over time... Yelena was just speculating. The impact was practically unless you were particularly sensitive to elemental energy or had an entire bottle shoved down your throat like Edgar. You could use the product for decades and be completely fine.
It may be true there are no records of Auguste poisoning in Fontaine. But even if no one was acutely poisoned, willfully bringing a product to market despite explicit knowledge of its harmful effects is still a serious crime. That explains why you were so intent on keeping Yelena and Kyria's involvement a secret all this time, despite readily confessing to all your financial crimes. The Fatui, delusions, Auguste... If the Maréchaussée Phantom discovered the connection between the three, there would have been enough evidence to send you to the Fortress of Meripede for life.
Ha! If I'd known coming to Sumeru would put a target on my back, I would have been more than happy to stay there. At least that way. All these years without any sign of Kyria, and he pops up out of nowhere the minute my brother and I get out of prison? It couldn't be any clearer. Auguste was harmless before. The fact that it's killing people all of a sudden must be his doing as well.
So there's bad blood between you.
What about Yelena's death?
I'll admit, we thought about it at one point. We took care to disguise the but if the Maréchaussée Phantom decided to look into the flower beds, it would have been the end. Yelena's ties to the Fatui, the role of the delusion, everything would have been exposed. Before we could even put our plan in motion, Yelena beat us to it. She burned all her flower beds and threw herself into the fire as well.
But if her goal was to destroy evidence, there would have been no reason to do that to herself. Yeah, she could have just burned the flower beds and fled with her brother.
I thought about it for a long time, but it wasn't until just now that I finally understood her reasoning. Everything she did, it was for her brother, Kyria. One of the reasons they defected from the Fatui was the deterioration of Yelena's body due to her excessive use of a delusion. She didn't want her brother to follow in her footsteps after her death. After arriving in Fontaine, Yelena continued using the delusion to cultivate the Auguste flower, weakening her body even further.
So she couldn't flee with her brother because she was afraid of holding him back.
If her true identity was exposed, the Auguste flower and Yelena's own corroded body both bore the mark of a delusion. So, in the end, she burnt it all to ash, including herself. With all the evidence...
So the wealth you earned from Auguste, it wasn't destroyed in the fire. Yelena gave it to her
Most likely. Before Yelena died, she said if anything happened to her, she was going to leave everything. That's why Lucien and I were searching for Kyria, to take back Armora and the Auguste flower. We just didn't realize Kyria was baiting us the whole time. It was all a trap.
But why is Kyria out for revenge anyway? Doesn't he...
I don't think he knew his sister was nearing death. Yelena always wore heavy makeup around him to conceal her deteriorating appearance. She kept herself busy with work to keep out of sight. That way her brother wouldn't notice how she could barely walk.
Then all we'll need to do is tell Kyria what really happened, and then he'll give up on his revenge. I'm not so sure. Even if he knew the truth, he'd still find someone to blame. He might think Yelena was forced into using a delusion to cultivate Auguste, or something like that. It's hard to pull yourself out of that kind of hatred, especially when you've been living in that headspace for so many years.
Very true. Even if Yelena's death was her own choice, I wouldn't call myself innocent either.
Edgar, what are you talking about?
Think about it, Sylvain. If we hadn't been in such a hurry to capitalize on the perfume mania all those years ago, do you think Yelena would have elected to take those risks? If we hadn't been so blinded by greed, so insistent on increasing the scale of the flower cultivation, do you think Yelena's health would have deteriorated as fast as it did? If we hadn't invited the Marechaussee Phantom to our doorstep...
She knew her limits. She knew we were just trying to earn a bit of Mora. Lucien's crime.
3 people from Fontaine. Well, we can only wait until the Academia sends someone to deal with it. With the exhibition,
The hotel could suffice. Although with Sylvain's mental state and my...
Mr. Edgar, are you saying...
If Sylvain is to stand trial, then I deserve the same fate. A crime is a crime. I'd just like to take care of a few things before I go. As for Sylvain, would you be willing to grant that request?
Well, all right. I'll talk to the man we grew to know in Sumeru proved him.
You have my thanks, Sheriff.
Happened tonight? Oh, you mean the possibility that Kyria might...
Yeah! All we know is that he uses Auguste to poison people, but we still have no idea how to catch him in the act. If he targets Sylvain...
That may be true. If we take advantage of this situation...
Master, no! That's too...
So, if Kyria learns, in other words, you want...
Capture? Not...
Afraid? I'm spending the rest of my... As for the danger, everyone else just needs to make preparations.
I'll admit, it could work. We just need to... Then I'll station some of my men around the hotel. If we have your assistance as well, our chance of success...
I still have some reservations.
I'll also keep...
Although, I think if Kyria noticed another...
You mean if he doesn't see
If that were to happen...
That's why everyone else needs to keep to the shadows.
You're still recovering. You need to rest.
All right, we can figure out...
Have you heard? Mr. Edgar's been detained. He's being taken away tomorrow.
What? He's the one who helped craft all the fragrances for our shop.
He taught my child how to make perfume. How could this happen?
He hasn't been convicted yet. Let's just wait and see what the court has to say.
Oh, everyone on the street is talking about the rumors. No matter where Curie is hiding, he must have heard them by now. Let's head back to the hotel and take a break. We can see how the other preparations are going while we're at it.
Emily, Sheriff Xian wants to talk to you in the trap.
Thank you, Kale. But first, here, I prepared a kind of herbal tea that helps calm the spirit. Why don't you have some?
Oh, that's very...
Oh, it's not good to be so tense. You seem very preoccupied.
Hey, Emily, Kale. Oh, are we interrupting something?
No, not at all. This will be easier to talk through. There was just a when I accompanied Sylvain, maybe Kyria did that on purpose. Maybe he wanted Sylvain to experience the...
So did he attack Edgar?
Based on what we've heard about Curie,
Losing his sister all those years, whenever I get to thinking... I'm sorry.
there's nothing wrong with... In all my years of cleaning up crime scenes, some of them even try to stop me, begging me not... Surround yourself with fragrance for too long, and your sense of smell will become dull. Allow yourself to be... So while you hold on to that sense of empathy, you also need to ask yourself, do Sylvain and Lucien really deserve to die? How much did they truly know about the Fatui and the delusion? Answering those questions requires a lot of time and evidence, while a single act... I've witnessed a lot of deaths in Fontaine. When someone dies, but generally speaking, death will just leave most questions.
Once you're consumed by hatred, it will become next to impossible.
You're right. But that also makes... I understand Kyria's
Emily, Traveler. Huh? Edgar.
Oh, it's you two! Didn't you head back to your room to rest, Edgar? Is it really okay for you?
A little exercise, never... Besides, I don't have much time left in Sumeru. So I'd like...
We could do that for you, Master.
No need. I would imagine Sheriff...
The Night Watch!
That's right. I've stationed some of my men around the surrounding area, but we still don't have anyone standing guard next to Sylvain's room. Exactly. After some discussion, we concluded that Sylvain has the highest risk of being attacked next. You're the most skilled fighter here, Traveler, and Emilie's expertise is sure to come in.
Sounds perfectly...
Not a peep. Has Kyria given up on his revenge? Guess we'll have to... Still nothing unusual. Paimon took a peek into the room next door and Sylvain's already sleeping.
Perhaps Kyria's true motive was simply forcing Sylvain to confess his crimes. No, that can't be right. If all he wanted was for Sylvain to be convicted for his... There must be something we're missing.
Maybe we just need to calm down a little. How about some tea? You're right. Maybe we can look for a different distraction then, like looking at the flowers. Oh, there's a glaze lily here. Paimon didn't notice it earlier.
Flowers, glaze lilies, incense... Oh no! Sylvain's room! Quick!
Wait, what?
Hey, did you hear? Someone was attacked again last night.
It was the older of the merchant brothers, right?
Yeah, I think his name was Sylvain.
First it was Mr. Edgar, then that merchant named Lucian, and now this.
Listen up, everyone. This is an act of crime.
It's been 3 days and they haven't.
Do you think it could be the work of an... I mean, how do you get away with...
Keep it moving, everyone. No loitering.
I suppose.
You don't know that. Kyria already attacked you once, and
You were the only reason I managed to survive.
Even if I wasn't there, Tainari was also in the vicinity. He would have been able to help.
Is that so? I have exceptional but Kyria has... It really makes you wonder.
If you really want an answer, I suppose you'll have to ask Kyria himself, once we finally catch him.
Well... Emily, there's something else I'd like to ask, but so many flowers were transported here for the show, some of them thousands of miles away from their homeland. Whether Kyria gets to me first, or I'm sent back to Fontaine to stand trial, I won't be around to look after them. I know it's a lot.
Of course, Master.
Really? Now
Sheriff Sham still has some questions.
Go ahead. Best not to keep him waiting. He can be quite...
I'm sorry, Master.
Another all-nighter. Paimon sure hopes...
Emily still isn't back. I hope she didn't run into any trouble. Yeah, that's true.
Traveler, I had my men start spreading the information you requested. The crowd is gone. After listening to Emilie's plan, I started getting the material. To be honest, I'm still not...
The key clue was right in front of us the entire... Let's go. We'll show you where the culprit hid a goose. Wasn't this incense originally in Lucian's room? It must have been moved here before... This is it!
The glazed lily, huh? I think I've heard of it before. It's a flower from Liyue, right?
Well, did you know it only blooms at night?
Emily, you're back!
Exactly as expected.
A flower that only blooms at night. Ah, like the Neelitpala lotus.
Exactly. Although the Neelitpala lotus wouldn't be a good substitute in this scenario. When it's closed, the gaps between the petals are too large. That's why Kyria chose the glaze lily as his mechanism. He would start by preparing an agouti sample.
There's a sticky substance on the edge of the flower petals. It's one I recognize. That doesn't sound right. If applied to the outside, you would still be able to smell a goose, even in the daytime. That doesn't...
If poured into the flower pot, the liquid would seep into the soil. That might prevent the that doesn't sound... If you stick the petals together with slime condensate, then, in the daytime, the glaze lily would act almost like a hidden container.
That's right! He applied a diluted form of slime condensate to the petals to stick them together and enclosed a sample of agouste in the center. That way, the agouste would remain trapped inside during the daytime, unable to seep between the petals and evaporate into the air. This also allowed the culprit to plant the poison well in advance, while his targets remained oblivious. However, the diluted slime condensate wouldn't be viscous enough to prevent the petals of the glaze lily from opening at night. So by nightfall, the flower would bloom, thereby forcing the target to inhale the agouste trapped inside.
And Kyria could execute his revenge without having to step foot inside the room during the night.
By the next morning, the sample of agouste would have nearly fully evaporated.
Wait a second. You're telling me this version of agouste is so toxic, inhaling the minute amount trapped inside a flower is enough to kill a grown man? And how did Edgar even survive ingesting a whole bottle of the stuff?
That's because agouste is just as dangerous now as it was all those years ago. The level of toxicity has never changed. Only a small subset of people are truly at risk.
Ah, you mean people who are sensitive to elemental energy. So it's just some sort of happy coincidence that Sylvain and Lucien are allergic to the stuff? That can't be right. They were involved in the operation all those years ago. If the stuff gave them a bad reaction, they would have known from the very start.
I wouldn't use the word allergic necessarily. It's more like they're susceptible to its effects. But that distinction isn't important right now. You can think of it this way. It's not that Sylvain and Lucien are innately sensitive to elemental energy, but that Kyria found a way to ensure that they would be.
In Fontaine, I experienced how drinking primordial seawater made me more attuned to the element of hydro. But that substance would be hard to get around here. All kinds of essential oils commonly found in alchemical products can temporarily increase elemental affinity. But it would be difficult to force someone to use them without knowing it. The incense I smelled earlier seemed familiar. Thinking back on it. In Sumeru, scholars use spirit borneal to aid meditation and stimulate their connection to the Dendro Archon.
Alchemically produced essential oils, the primordial seawater that caused unrest in Fontaine not too long ago. All of those are substances that can heighten your sensitivity to elemental energy.
Gave us a lot of trouble when we first came to Sumeru.
Ah, yes. I definitely remember that.
In Sumeru, it's not uncommon to use incense indoors, so its presence wouldn't arouse suspicion. The flowers in the room could also serve to mask the scent.
Flowers were pretty important to this plan, huh? The glaze lily is native to Liyue. It would be completely unnatural to have one here in Sumeru if it weren't for the exhibition. What a coincidence.
Actually, it's not a coincidence at all.
No wonder he was willing to pay a small fortune to rent out.
He probably used the Mora Yelena left him, don't you think? That money was supposed... But in the end, it was just a tool for...
There's a saying among forensic doctors in Fontaine. Every step you take, but up until this point, we haven't been able to detect any trace of Kyria's activities. That's not because he was coming and going undetected, or because he's some kind of evil spirit, but because he's been disguised as someone else this entire time.
Creating such an intricate mechanism out of a glaze lily. Setting up the spirit borneal in advance. and arranging for Sylvain and Lucien to stay at the hotel. It all points to one person. Kyria and Edgar are one and the same.
But Kyria was only in his teens back then. He wouldn't even be 40 years old by now. Edgar's lived here for so many years. Even if he changed his appearance, going that long without giving anything away, it would be—
Bad news, Sheriff! Mr. Edgar was attacked!
What?
A dark shadow-like figure just ran out of his room. It was giving off a really ominous aura. But before we could even react, the figure up and disappeared like some sort of ghost or something. By the time we got a look inside the room, Mr. Edgar— Do you think Kyria kidnapped him?
I need you to think very carefully about this. Are you certain that—
I mean, Mr. Edgar was so frail. I don't see how he could have moved that fast.
It would seem Master decided to tap into an ill-advised source of—
What? But that's so dangerous with—
But why? Why would he—
No. If his aim was to target everyone—
If he left Sylvain alive yesterday, not out of a desire to see him suffer, but to
then there's still—
The shadow-like figure ran in the direction of the elevator, and my partner immediately chased after them.
We should hurry before they're forced to confront each other.
Where in the world did he go? Let's ask the merchants nearby.
A ghost!
It's all right. Please, calm down and take a deep breath. Can you—
I saw... How could...
This is terrifying.
No! Don't come any closer!
If we go any further, we'll be—
It's all right. I can detect a faint whiff of the scent. It's this way. Please, follow me.
Oh! Are you all right? Were you attacked?
No, I'm all right. I was...
Let me take a look.
The air definitely feels heavy. It smells nice, but for some reason,
Everything looks all right. It was probably just the stress of the chase.
I can't rest. Mr. Edgar is still in there. He taught my sister how to make perfume. He's a good man. I can't...
Oz, you need to calm down and listen to me.
But how is that possible? I thought you said Kyria was in his 30s. Mr. Edgar is 70-something.
That's precisely why he had to resort to extraordinary measures. Kyria used a delusion to bring back the Auguste flower.
No. He couldn't have. Mr.
And what if the impersonation started before he ever set foot in Sumeru? I've yet to confirm it, but I suspect Kyria killed the real Edgar in Fontaine not long after his release from prison. While Edgar was incarcerated, Kyria started making preparations to replace him, including forcefully aging his body. studying perfumery, and planning the real Edgar's demise. The new Edgar then decided to relocate to Sumeru, seemingly out of an innocuous desire to, and Sumeru fit the bill to a T, with no one around to. As the years went by, he removed his disguise little by little and continued to refine his skills.
That explains why Sylvain said he barely recognized Edgar back. He aged himself decades beyond his years just so he could accomplish his revenge.
I need to find Mr. Edgar. He's not...
What you really need is to get out.
No,
Wait! This environment is likely being influenced by the delusion. Any discomfort, no matter how I know how to relieve your symptoms, but I'm sure Kiria...
Kale's right. The Traveler and I will take things from here. From our this leads me to believe those blessed with a vision... Actually, now that I hate to trouble you, but...
Thanks. Hear that?
Traveler, Emily, for someone who's old...
Don't worry. This isn't the end. We're not going to let... Monsters. Perhaps they were attracted here by the increased level of elemental energy.
Laid bare.
I've never seen these seeds before. They must also have been created with the power of a delusion. It seems to be avoiding us, and there's no other way forward. Perhaps we could try luring it to the edge of the cliff.
Whoa, look at all the Auguste flowers! There are so many of them. I can't believe a single person did all this. Must have taken a lot of time.
I fear that statement is truer than you know, Paimon. Using a delusion comes at a cost, not just...
But why would he only needed a few bottles of Auguste to carry out his plan, right?
Perhaps hatred wasn't the only emotion fueling it. Not long ago, he told me he didn't want all the flowers transported to Sumeru to wither away in a foreign land. But Kiria betrayed Snezhnaya, abandoned Fontaine, and lived his entire life in Sumeru under the guise of someone else. For someone with nowhere to call home, perhaps dying among a bed of Auguste flowers just like his sister is the best homecoming he... A little ambiance. Neutralize. I must be prudent.
brighten up the place. Speed of light. Cut to the chase.
A plant that destroys seeds. Huh, quite the ecological marvel. Let's head back to the place where the seeds first appeared. The scent of flowers is getting stronger. We're almost at the end. The scent of flowers is getting stronger. We're almost...
Did they catch up that... No. My strength is just waning. But it doesn't matter. This is fun.
This is a garden of Auguste flowers. But it's not mine. It's the one that was set on fire all those years ago in Fontaine. Yelena? Yelena! You tried to hide it from me, but I always understood the reason why you continued to use the delusion. The reason why you set your garden on fire. I shouldn't have listened to you that day. I shouldn't have taken the Mora and ran. But by the time I realized something wasn't right, there was nothing left. I know I'm almost 20 years too late. I should have died with you that day! Yelena? Yelena! No! Don't leave me! Please! Yelena!
Emily? I'm alive. No.
That was an illusion, likely brought about by the residual toxin in your body.
No. The amount of Auguste I drank. A fake. But...
We started making the preparations last night to create a perfect accord. The accord is the basis of perfume making,
the product in its most primitive form. Ambergris mixed with cedarwood, rounded out with a base note of agarwood.
This is the scent of leather?
Exactly. We're unable to extract essential oils from leather, but by combining other raw materials, we can recreate its essence. That is the purpose of an accord.
Does that mean you can recreate any scent in the whole world?
I'm afraid not. So Certain fragrances in this world are simply one of a kind. That quality is what draws people in and fuels their obsessions.
If I wear a goose to the ball, I'll also be one of a kind.
Our competitor already got their hands on it.
It doesn't matter how much it costs. I have to buy something better.
This fragrance will be one of a kind no more. Myths can be deconstructed, miracles can be recreated. All it takes is skill, experience, limitless exploration, and a little patience. The only thing left is determining where the real Auguste is hidden. Pretending to be attacked means he's not free to move around. Auguste must be hidden within reach.
Paimon took a peek through the window earlier and his house was packed with flowers.
The curator commissioned a flower pot from Kasharawar, capable of retaining heat and moisture.
Perfumes are as beautiful as flowers, and equally as delicate. When stored, you must take care to control the temperature and keep them away from direct sunlight. Did you get all that, Emily?
I got it.
Did you hear? Someone was attacked again last night.
So, Sylvain is dead. Is that right?
Yes, Master.
So, you switched the bottles of Auguste?
Convincing you that your revenge had been completed was the easiest way to get you to let down.
Impossible. Even if you found if Auguste was...
It was a combination of rainbow roses, glaze lilies, and Cecilias. Those ingredients would have conflicted with each other, but recently, we found a way for...
Rainbow roses?
Auguste was created over 10 years ago. All this time, people never stopped analyzing it, never stopped trying to recreate it. Perfumery techniques are advancing day by day. We've found better ways to extract essential oils, separate oils and fats. We even discovered new ways to combine fragrances together. The mythos surrounding Auguste may have been untouchable almost 20 years ago, but now it's time for it to...
The past.
You've been working as a perfumer for all these years. You should have always known that it is possible to make an accord, even if only in theory. But the meaning you assigned to Auguste became so inflated, you allowed yourself to get... You believed in its divinity and grandeur. You believed it was entirely one of a kind. Your obsession with Auguste is also what allowed us to predict how you intended your plan to end, and to make preparations in advance.
We just didn't expect it to happen so fast.
Well, since you've been preparing that means the news of Sylvain's...
Yes. If we...
Who knows? Maybe I would...
I know if you had things your way. All the crimes he...
Is that so?
Whoa, he accepted that kind of fast.
I don't feel the need to justify. I did what...
Careful, everyone.
Stick close and hurry up. We can't let Edgar die.
Looks like I'm...
Of course, Master.
The combination.
The scent of Auguste is complex and varied, yet the main ingredient consists of... So, as I was analyzing the sample yesterday, I got to thinking, what if the scent of the Auguste flower was already imbued with that complexity during its cultivation?
You're saying Yelena designed Auguste to have...
Rainbow roses, glaze lilies, Cecilias. The perfumers of the past knew that if you combine their essential oils directly, they would just cancel each other out. But If you cultivate a new flower species that intrinsically carries the unique features of those 3 scents, you can bypass that issue entirely. It goes without saying that for that time, this idea—
Rainbow roses, glaze lilies, and Cecilias. Those really do seem like flowers you would choose, Yelena.
Transfixed!
Did you know? Miss Emily's releasing a new perfume!
Right! I heard about that!
Seems like everyone in Fontaine is talking about the new perfume you're releasing.
I was hoping to release it without such a fuss, but the news spread. I just hope it won't become the source of some new myth, especially after I did. Although I made a few modifications to the formula to make the scent more pleasant and long-lasting. I actually brought a few samples with me today. I hope they're to your liking. Also, I was hoping you could try out the fragrance before I officially release it and tell me your thoughts.
Of course! A good sense of taste and scent. Oh, it smells great!
It's alright. All feedback is worth considering. Besides, when it comes to perfume, commenting on whether it smells good is the most straightforward assessment you can ask for. There doesn't always have to be a deeper meaning.
Right! Do those flowers have some special meaning? Hearing the—
if I had to guess—
A language of flowers? Oh, we've heard of that before! Paimon remember—
What each flower is said to represent varies by person and across different moments in history. The same is true for the flowers that make up the scent of Auguste. After returning to Fontaine, I did some research, and it turns out the meanings of those 3 flowers can be reassembled to form a single phrase. Forget the past and keep on living. Perhaps that's the legacy Yelena always intended, not the nobility and grandeur most people associate with Auguste.
Do you think Kyria knew about that?
I paid him a visit before his trial and explained what I found, but he didn't seem to care. Who knows? Maybe she didn't mean anything by it at all. That was his response. Yelena is gone. We'll never know what she was thinking. We can look for meaning all we want, but it'll never be anything but conjecture. Even if that is what she was trying to say, I would never be able to— Avenging her death? That was the meaning I chose for my life. Kyria cultivated his revenge like a flower. He was committed to making it bloom, even if in the end, it didn't bear the fruit he was hoping for. In any case, he did want me to pass along his thanks. Thank you for saving my life, for giving me the chance to learn that Auguste could have carried a very different meaning. Love and hatred are a privilege of the living. When someone dies, their thoughts, feelings, and intentions die with them. But even if it's only a conjecture, I would like to believe my own interpretation. The meaning we give to flowers, the symbolism we assign to our perfumes, they're constantly twisted and exploited in our imperfect, and yet at the very outset, they're born from the simplest and most beautiful desires we hold in our heart.